So this morning we have a 2008 Lexus RX350, and it was here last week for some strut suspension repairs, and I noticed one U-joint was gone on the drive shaft. So today we're going to try and replace a staked in U-joint. So here's a look at the U-joint that's failed. You can see this is pretty loose. That cross is just about blown out. The other three U-joints in this system look good, so we're going to just take this front section of the drive shaft off. But before doing that, we're going to mark this so that we can maintain the same orientation because it might affect the balance. So I marked this with 3 center punch marks here, and I also marked the orientation here because we want to put this back on in the same spot. And you can see this joint is completely blown out. Now, it's staked in here originally, so we can't push it through because of the stakes. I'm going to cut the joint with either a zip cut blade here if I can get in here. I don't think I can. Or I'm going to use a torch and cut the cross, leave the caps in and push the caps the other way, this way. This is a staked in joint, but before we go any further, I'm going to measure the diameter here and the width to make sure the U-joint that I got is correct. So here is the replacement U-joint. This is a NEPCO or NEPCO. It's 0.867 across the cross, and between the internal locks it's 1.4 inches. So I've measured the shaft, and that looks pretty accurate as far as this dimension goes. Yeah, 1.4 inches. Yeah, that should be good. So again, we're just going to cut this cross out and then press the caps out from the outside, and then take the die grinder and clean up the stakes, and then these internal locks will hold this U-joint in place when we're done. So I managed to cut that off with a zip cut blade without marking the crosses. This one will be easy. I can just cut it across here, and we should be able to top these staked U-joints out now. So we have a bit of a problem here. That one cross, as you can see, has worn right through the side of the cap, and it's worn into the ear on the drive shaft. So technically this needs to be replaced. There's a little bit of it still there, but that's on the outside of the stakes where the U-joint cup's going to sit. I'm going to try to clean that up and then build it up with a MIG welder. So I sandblasted this area out, and I built it up with some MIG weld, and then I die grind it back down to close size. It's about 5 thou bigger than it needs to be, so it should that cup should press in there no problem. And I just need to file this a little bit, but that doesn't matter, but this should be okay. There's not a lot of torque on this drive shaft. So this end looks pretty good. So again, we got to take the die grinder and grind the stakes down so that we can slide the caps in from this end. And we got to file this surface here. Make sure this dimension in here is exactly 1.4 inches. And I got to fix the other part of the drive shaft. Too bad it wasn't this part. It'd be easy to work on. So I used a 7/16 nut to push it through. One of the problems is these ears are not square, so you have to put a little spacer on the vise to push it through. Push it past so we can start this cup at this end onto the rollers before it starts into the housing. Otherwise the rollers might fall down, fall out of place. So as you can see, I got the nut on this side here. I got a little piece of shim steel in here, and I can press it in with the vise and make sure that this roller keeps turning. I'm going to put the C-lock in here before we push that one right across. So if you're tightening it up with the vise, give the vise a little bit every quarter of a turn or eighth of a turn. Normally I would use a ball joint press, but this U-joint is way too small for that. So it's up against this snap ring groove, and we're going to have to it's really close. We're going to have to put a punch in here. I'm going to use this bolt to tap this ear back just a little bit. There, perfect. Now we should be able to put this other snap ring in. And slide the snap ring right around so that it's in the back. Just like that. Okay, so that's the easy half done. And then tap the joint to relieve pressure on it. Oh yeah, the U-joint's good. Okay, so you can see that snap ring in the back, because there's no material here obviously. So we're going to try to fix that ear now. So there's the U-joint in. I greased it. A little bit of excess grease coming out here. Put it back on the vehicle in the same orientation. I lined up my marks on the ear here. That was a bit of a challenge, mainly because these ears aren't square, so when you're putting it in the vise, it doesn't, it wants to push the caps in crooked. That one's a little stiff, but it should free up. So there's the drive shaft back on, no more play in it. Now I did lose some transfer case oil or front diff oil, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to find out where that goes and replenish that. Yeah, this is ooh, that doesn't look too easy to get to. Where is the fill plug? There's the drain plug. Probably, oh, there it is, right up there. Lovely. You could have put it in a better spot. Well, I've seen worse. Well, we'll fill up the diff and we're good to go. So there you can see the location for the fill plug. It's a 15/16. Calls for 80/90. I put 75/90 synthetic in it, which is probably better for the cold weather here we get. You lose about, well, roughly half a liter, and it holds a liter, or 1 quart I think is the capacity. So should be good to go now.